Hello there everyone, this is Rackus96 here with another Nerf review. This one is on the Nerf Zombie Strike Flipfury. As you know, Flipfury is the name for it because you can flip the barrels from top to bottom or bottom to top, however you prefer. So going over my standard review, we will start from the back. Up top here, this is your priming handle. Pretty much the same setup as a Strong Arm or Maverick or really pretty much any blaster this size with turrets. You have a pullback for some of the other Zombie Strike line, or you have, the physical pull, not just, the cock back. Kind of like the Double Strike. So moving on, the grip is nice and comfortable. It basically looks like a woodstock, and it has a texture like a woodstock. Of course, they do the wrap around it as if it was actually wrapped in cloth. They do that with the whole Zombie Strike line. Everything from their side arms, their small, pretty much I call them backup guns, and then to the sledge fire and the sling fire. A review will be coming out on the sling fire in a couple of days, maybe a week. So that's something to look forward to. Moving on is your normal trigger. Of course you prime back and then you have full range of the trigger. Right now you cannot move the barrel without forcing it, of course. And then this bottom trigger here is the one you use to flip barrels. And it's a very nice pull. You're actually physically doing the work yourself. You're pulling the linkage and the mech is rotating inside. Moving on, there's just this bottom, I guess it's like a bottom holder. I really don't know what to call it. It's kind of like a protector, I guess. So you can't hit your finger. I don't really know what the design of that is for, but it gives the blaster a nice rectangular look instead of this just being a massive hole and then having a drop here. But I mean, you're not gonna carry it by that anyway. That just doesn't look right. Moving on, there's a hole in the stock back here. Now, why there's a hole in the stock, I don't know. I guess so you can slip a finger in there, maybe your pinky. I don't really know what you'd use that for, but they put a hole there anyway. And then there is your rear sling attachment, and then one on the top if you want to use two of them. You can dual wield and then flip through your cylinders. They are 6-round turrets, and you have 2 of them, so this is a 12-round blaster. You go through your top 6, you can flip over to your bottom 6, and you can actually reload the bottom one as you go. So moving on, there's an N-Strike tactical rail. It's pretty much good with anything, just as a little look. There's a long shot scope. That looks a little ridiculous, but why not? You want your shots to be on point, to line up. You gotta squint though, because they're just so extreme on magnification. You actually need to squint to see where you're aiming. Pointless, but it looks cool. My personal favorite is the Modulus Recon expansion pack, the holographic sight. The color, I do have an issue keeping things on this rail, but there we go. I think that looks pretty cool. Not that it's completely useful or anything, but it's there, and I kind of look like the look of the holographic sight on there. So moving on past the rail, there are your 2 rotating turrets. You can turn the bottom one freely. They actually give you little valleys and dips here. So gotta get a dart out. So say you have an empty barrel, you can just slide the dart right in without bending it and twisting it and possibly bending or breaking a dart. Just by trying to force it in. And then of course, once you're done loading the bottom one, flip it into place, and you can load the other one from either side. Doesn't matter, they both have the same little dip there. Moving on, this is where I find, if you're just holding the blaster, like I am here, this is the perfect place to hold it by. This little arm down here. It actually prevents you from getting your hand when you flip the cylinders. The only thing I find is I have a pretty large hand. I consider myself adult-sized. So when I put my hand on this, I rest my hand on the bottom cylinder. I mean, this is just what I'm holding it. So when I go to flip the cylinders, I'm whacking my fingertips. But I mean, for most people, you're gonna have to have your hand here to keep firing. I mean, you're never gonna put your hand here unless you're just walking with it or running with it, and you don't want it bouncing all over the place on your arm. Or on your sling, you're actually gonna hold it. That's really the only downfall. And up front here, pretty much all this right here and down is useless. It just holds the receiving end of the mech for the rotator. And then up here is your barrel. I guess that would be technically your barrel. And the only really nice thing about this blaster, and pretty much the only thing I really like about turret blasters, is there's no long barrel. In a long strike and a long shot, even in a strife, there's still a little bit, you know, about yay long of just a barrel sitting inside there, which decreases your feet per second and your accuracy. We all know these guns are never going to be insanely accurate unless you're doing extreme internal mods, and something like this, you'd never really be able to get accurate anyway. But I just like how it's just, you know, a complete empty hole, and of course no end strike barrel attachment and no stock attachment. So that's pretty much the review to the pros and cons. Like I told you, no one's ever going to put their hand here, so it's not really a con. The whole bottom thing here, I don't know what you'd use this for. I mean, I guess if you're running and you want to carry it by that's fine. It's not going anywhere, but that's what the sling mounts are for. That's what the hole's for. I don't know what you'd really do that for. I'll probably put this in the place of my strong arm and have it hanging on my hip. Because once I go through the strong arm, if I use all 6 darts, I have darts on me to switch them out, but you know, I have to pop the barrel out, reload, sling it back in. Now this, I have the option to physically load it on the side, so that's a really big pro for me. I like being able to load the cylinder in place, unlike the strong arm. Like I said, you have to push the clip on the side, pop the cylinder out, rotate it around, fill all 6, pop it back in, and you have 6 shots. With this, you have 12. So clearly there's an upgrade there. I'm really glad they made this. It's basically, from here up is a strong arm. From here down is where they just added the rotator mech to make it more useful, I think. Nerf war practicality. I will probably be using this as a secondary. Indoor, absolutely. It's nice, it's small. You're not using a side strike or a rough cut where you have, you know, 4 shots, basically 4 shots, unless you use the 2-stage trigger. In this, you have 12, and you can control what you're going to do. You know, you want to use the top one, change the top one, pick up darts off the ground, refill. You have them in your pockets, refill. So yeah, that's the biggest pro for me. And then the handle, they designed it so well. I have a lot of room left, and it is very comfortable. It's not, the only thing I can see being a problem for littler hands is, personally, you can kind of see here, my trigger finger fits perfect, but when I reach down, I have a big enough hand where I can put my middle finger on the bottom trigger here to rotate the cylinders. Now, for smaller hands, I might see that being an issue. So you might have to fire through all 6, go down with your same index or pointer finger, pull that, and then go back up. I've tried it both ways. There's not, one way isn't better than another. One way doesn't decrease your speed than the other. I just find a little better because I always have a finger there. Sometimes I won't, just depending on how you feel like holding your blaster, shooting your blaster. If you have a better feel putting your finger on the little trigger, that's fine. If you don't, it's not going to slow you down. So I'll show you some firing. I'm only going to fire through 1 cylinder. So here we go. Primed and locked and loaded. Alrighty, that was the first cylinder. I'm going to flip over, and then I'll do slam fire for you. So, for you that don't know, slam fire is holding down this trigger, and on the pullback, she'll fire. Alrighty, so for those of you that don't know, and I did not say it before, this blaster does have slam fire, as I just demonstrated. Now, the art of slam fire is holding that trigger down, and you can hear it firing as soon as I pull the priming handle all the way back. That gives you the advantage of sitting there, pointing at your target, and unloading all 6 darts. Or 12 if you flip over. The only disadvantage is when you pull the blaster back. There's not really, I mean, unless you tense up your arm, you're going to want to pull this away. So that's personally, while slam fire is not the thing for me, for those of you that use it, I have had no jams. I've shot over 200, maybe 300 rounds out of this thing. And I've probably had it for about 3-4 days. At different ranges, of course, to get a range test going on. I will be actually range testing this blaster with a couple others tomorrow. That upload will be probably up in a couple hours after this one. So I believe I'm going to be range testing this blaster, the strong arm, the double strike now, one or the other. I'll release all those, as well as a side strike. And that will pretty much be just about all the sidearms I have, but I want to get the different distances, because, I mean, I want to pick the best one for me, but I can pretty much tell you it will probably be this guy here, so you'll see the updated loadout for 2016. So thank you guys very much for watching. Like I said, my next Nerf review, maybe I'll do a mod tutorial on this, who knows, I've been looking into it. There's a couple different things you can do. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. I'll see you then.